Ray opened his eyes slowly. His head was heavy and his body felt weak. The sound of alarms filled the room. Red lights were flashing. Something had gone wrong. He looked around. He was inside a spaceship, but it was damaged. Wires were hanging. From the ceiling, smoke was in the air. The floor was shaking slightly. He could feel the pressure in his ears. He tried to stand up. His leg hurt. Maybe it was broken or just bruised. He looked at the control panel. It was not working. The main screen was cracked. The oxygen level was low. He had maybe 1 hour before the air ran out. He needed to move fast. Ray picked up a small scanner from the table. It still worked. He checked the ship's status. Life support was failing. Navigation was offline. Communications were dead. He was trapped. He was alone. At least he thought he was alone. Then he heard something. A soft noise behind him. Like a breath or a whisper. He turned around quickly. His heart started beating faster. He picked up a metal rod from the floor. He moved slowly toward the sound. In the dark corner of the room, he saw something move. A shadow stepped forward. It was not human. It was a woman, but not like anyone he had ever seen. Her skin was smooth and light blue. Her hair looked like silver threads. Her eyes were bright and glowing. She was breathing heavily. Her chest moved. Fast, she looked at him but did not speak. Ray stepped back. He held the metal rod tight. She did not attack. She just stared at him. The air around her felt hot. He felt sweat on his face. The heat from her body was rising. He said hello. She said nothing. He asked if she was hurt. Still no answer. She moved closer. Ray stepped back again. The floor under her feet looked burned. The metal had melted a little. Her body was giving off extreme heat. It was dangerous. He pointed at the exit and told her to stay away. She looked confused. Her hand touched her chest. She looked in pain. Ray remembered the translator device in the lab room. He rushed toward it. The woman followed but slowly. Her steps were weak. Inside the lab he found the translator. It was old but working. He connected it and turned it on. A voice came from it. It was soft and broken. The woman spoke again. This time the translator caught a word. It said help. Ray looked at her. She was shaking. She was not trying to hurt him. She was scared. Her body temperature was rising too fast. If it kept going, she could burn the whole ship. He asked her what she needed. The translator said cold. Ray opened the ship's blueprint. The cooling chamber was damaged in the crash. But maybe the emergency coolant system in the cargo bay was still working. He told her to follow. They moved through the hallway. Sparks were falling from the ceiling. One beam fell in front of them. The woman stopped. She raised her hand. A heat wave came from her body and melted the beam. Ray was shocked. She had power, but she was losing control. They reached the cargo bay. The door was jammed. Ray pulled with all his strength. She helped. Together, they opened it. Inside the cargo bay. The lights were out. It was dark. Ray turned on his wrist light. The air was colder here. He found the emergency cooler unit. It was still running. He opened it. Steam came out. The woman moved close to it. Her body started to calm. The heat reduced a little. Ray looked around. There was something else in the room. A sealed container was glowing. It was not part of the ship. The woman looked at it. Her face changed. She moved toward it quickly. Ray followed. The container had symbols. Alien language. She touched it. The glow became stronger. Ray asked what it was. The translator said source. He asked source of what? The translator said life. Ray did not understand. But he felt this was important. This woman was not just a passenger. She had a reason to be here. The ship shook again. A warning appeared on his wrist screen. Something outside was scanning them. Ray looked at the woman. She looked back. Her eyes were glowing brighter. They were not alone in space, and someone was coming for her. Asterisk. The floor beneath Ray's boots turned soft. He jumped back. The metal panel had melted. A few seconds more, and he would have sunk right through it. He looked at the woman. She was breathing faster than before. Her body was glowing now. Light orange lines ran across her arms and neck like fire inside her. Skin. She was losing control again. Ray checked the temperature on his wrist scanner. The numbers were rising fast. Too fast. The ship was built for human systems, not for this kind of heat. Panels on the wall were bending. Pipes were hissing. The air smelled like burned plastic. He shouted at her to stop. She held her head and dropped to one knee. Her hands touched the floor. More metal started to melt. The emergency cooler was not enough. She needed more. Or something different. Ray ran to the console near the storage units. He opened every cooling unit one by one. Nothing strong enough. The ship had only short-term survival gear. He checked the main power grid. The core was damaged, but the cryochamber had some power left. It was risky. But if they stayed here, the ship would melt from the inside. He pointed at the cryo room on the map. She looked up, eyes tired, heat still rising from her body. He moved fast. She followed slowly, her heat trail leaving marks on the walls and floor. As they walked through the corridor, a small drone dropped from the ceiling. It had been damaged in the crash, but now it activated. It saw Ray and aimed a stun beam. Before Ray could react, the woman raised one arm. The heat from her body hit the drone like a wave. The metal twisted and fell with a thud. Ray stared at the broken drone. She was powerful. But her power was not stable. They reached the cryochamber. It was still cold. Ice formed around the edges of the door. Ray unlocked the panel and let her inside. As she stepped in, the sensors beeped. The room temperature dropped quickly. Steam filled the space. She knelt down in the center. Her glow started to fade. Her breathing slowed. It was working. Ray sat on the floor outside the chamber. His clothes were damp from sweat. His hands were shaking. He watched her through the glass wall. She looked peaceful now. Almost asleep. Then the ship lights flickered. Another system was failing. Ray stood up and checked the control panel again. He saw something strange. A signal. Someone was scanning the ship from outside. It was not a rescue signal. It was not human. He tried to block it. But the ship's firewall was weak. The signal got through. The pod in the cargo bay made a sound. A low hum. It had activated. Ray rushed back. Inside the cargo bay, the pod lights were blinking. The symbols on its side were moving. He heard a voice. Not from the translator. From the pod. It was a different voice. Deep. Echoing. The woman was still in the cryochamber. She could not hear it. Ray stood close to the pod. The voice repeated one word. Release. He backed away. Suddenly, the pod stopped humming. A green light appeared. It was ready to open. Ray turned to leave but stopped. Behind him, another door opened. A second alien figure stepped in. This one was taller. Stronger. Covered in armor. It looked at the pod. Then at Ray. Its eyes were cold. Ray raised his arms. He had no weapon. No chance. The figure moved forward. Without speaking. Ray had only one thought now. The woman was not alone, and maybe she was. Not the one in danger anymore. The armored figure dropped to one knee. It was not dead. It was scanning the floor. Ray froze. The thing had walked in without warning and said nothing. Now it stood still as if it was listening. Then its head turned sharply. It had no face, only a dark helmet. But Ray felt it looking at him. He moved back slowly. The pod behind him began to vibrate. The armored figure spoke. The voice was deep and cold. It said one word. Unauthorized. Ray did not understand. He raised His hands said he was only a pilot. So he found the woman by accident. The figure ignored him. It walked to the pod and placed its hand on the surface. The lights on the pod turned red. The pod was not just alien. It was locked by someone. Someone who did not want it opened. Ray took a risk. He spoke loudly, said the woman was in trouble. Said she needed the pod to survive. The figure paused. It asked a question. How long ago did she wake up? Ray answered. Only 1 hour ago. The figure said nothing more. It pressed a button on its arm. A soft pulse of light moved through the room. Ray felt a sharp sting in his chest. Then the pod hissed. It opened. Steam poured out. Ray stepped back, his eyes wide. The figure also moved away. Inside the pod was not a weapon. It was not cargo. It was a child. A small alien child with glowing skin and closed eyes. Ray could not believe it. The armored figure stared at the child. Then it looked at Ray. Its voice changed. It said she was not a prisoner. She was a mother. Ray understood now. The woman was not just an alien. She was trying to protect her child. That was why she came near the pod. That was why she asked for help. Suddenly the floor shook. A loud sound came from the outer hull. Another ship was arriving. The armored figure looked up. It said danger. It said others were coming. Ray asked who. The figure said hunters. It turned to the pod and covered the child with a small shield. Then it moved quickly toward the cryo-room. Ray followed. When they reached the cryo chamber, the woman was awake. She stood weakly, but her eyes were alert. She saw the figure and raised her hand in defense. The figure spoke in her language. She stopped. Her eyes filled with tears. The translator picked up one word. Safe. She nodded. Then she looked at Ray. She touched his hand. He felt the warmth. But it was no longer burning. She had gained some control. The armored figure said there was no time. They must hide the child. The hunters were near. Ray suggested the hidden panel under the engineering deck. It was small but shielded. They moved quickly. Alarms started to ring again. The ship detected a forced entry from outside. Ray and the figure placed the pod inside the hidden chamber. The child did not wake up. The woman placed her hand on the pod. The lights turned blue. Ray sealed the hatch. Then they turned to face the sound of heavy footsteps. Enemies were now inside the ship. The figure raised its weapon. The woman closed her eyes. The heat in the air started to rise again. Ray picked up a wrench. He was not strong. He was not fast. But he was not going to hide. Not anymore. They were a team now, and the real fight had just begun. The room was silent. Smoke hung in the air. The floor was covered with burnt wires and broken panels. The intruders were gone. Their bodies lay still, melted armor. Cracked helmets. Ray leaned against the wall. Blood on his forehead. His breath was heavy. The woman stood in front of him. Her hands still glowing faint orange. She had stopped the attackers. Her power had saved him, but now she was weak. She dropped to her knees. Her eyes closed. Ray rushed to her side. He checked her pulse. It was fast but strong. She had used too much energy. Her body needed time. Ray dragged her to the med bay. The armored figure followed, silent as always. It stood outside the door, guarding them. Inside, Ray placed the woman on a cold table. He scanned her with the medical device. Her heart rate was unstable. Her body heat was rising again, but slowly. He found a cooling patch and placed it on her chest. She flinched but stayed still. He watched her face. For the first time, she looked calm, not dangerous, not alien. Just tired. Then something clicked on the table. A small hidden slot opened. Inside it was a thin data chip. Ray pulled it out. It was old. Not human-made. He inserted it into the translator core. A voice played. It was her voice. This is not a weapon. This is a life. If I die, protect him. If they find him, they will end. Everything. Ray listened again. Her voice was soft, sad. The chip showed an image, a lab, chains. Her hands were tied. Machines around her. She had escaped from somewhere. Somewhere cold and cruel. He looked at her again. She had not come here to fight. She had come to hide. Ray felt a sharp pain in his arm. A piece of metal was stuck in his sleeve. He tried to pull it out but failed. The woman opened her eyes. She saw the wound. Without speaking, she reached for his hand. Ray froze. But he let her touch it. Her fingers glowed. The metal turned soft and slid out. The skin closed. No pain. Ray looked at her. She looked away. He asked why she helped him. The translator answered with one word. Trust. Ray nodded. Then a voice came from the hall. The armored figure. It warned them. Another signal was coming. Ray rushed to the console. He saw it. A large ship was approaching. Not a hunter ship. Something else. He checked the ID. It was a research vessel. Human. He felt relief. Rescue. But the armored figure said no. It knew that ship. That ship belonged to the people who locked her in the lab. Ray's hope turned to fear. They had tracked the signal. Maybe they wanted her. Maybe they wanted the child. Ray turned to her. She already knew. Her face had changed. Cold now. She stood up, looked at the armored figure, said one word. Fight. Ray was confused. He asked if running was possible. The figure shook its head. The ship's engines were damaged. No escape. Only choice was defense. Ray checked the weapon system. One turret was still working. Weak but enough to delay them. He opened a storage locker and pulled out an old suit. Light armor. Not much, but better than nothing. The woman held out her hand. A small ball of heat floated above it. It changed shape. A blade. Ray had no time to ask questions. The enemy ship was docking. The countdown had started. And this time, they would not hold back. The ship was too quiet. Ray moved through the corridor with slow steps. Each footstep echoed louder than it should. The lights were dim. The engines were off. Air systems were running low. The enemy ship had docked 15 minutes ago. But no one had entered yet. No weapons fired. No voices, just silence. Ray looked at the alien woman. She stood still at the door, one hand on the wall. Her eyes closed. She said they were scanning, not with machines. With minds. Ray felt cold. The armored figure stood near the bridge. It was setting charges near the vents. If they entered through gas lines, they would burn. Ray checked his gear. A small blaster, not much power, one shock grenade. No armor left. He felt useless. The woman turned to him. Her eyes glowed faint blue now. Not orange. Not hot. She was calm. She told him there was one way out. Not escape. Not fight. But trick. Ray followed her down a hallway he had never seen. She moved fast. The walls here looked different. Older. They passed a sealed door. She placed her hand on it. It opened without a sound. Inside was a long tunnel. Dark and narrow. Ray stepped in. The door shut behind them. No lights. No sound. He asked her where they were. She said this was the ship's forgotten path, hidden during the rebuild. A place even the system could not scan. At the end of the tunnel, a small hatch opened. It led into a circular room with old cables and storage bins. In the center was something strange. A metal box. Not human. Not part of the ship. She knelt beside it. The translator picked up one word, memory. Ray asked what it meant. She said this box held her record, her truth. She placed her palm on the box. A wave of light filled the room. Images floated in the air. A planet burning. Scientists running. A lab filled with children in cages. Ray saw her. Younger, weaker, surrounded by machines. They had used her to study energy. Heat from stars. But she had escaped. And taken something with her. Her child was not just her son. He was created in the lab. a being of balance. Half her energy, half something else. Ray understood now. The hunters wanted the child, not to kill, but to use. And the woman had run to keep him free. Ray looked at her. Her face was still. Then the lights turned red, warning lights. The enemies had entered the ship. The trap had failed. Ray asked, "What now?" She looked at him. Her voice steady. She said, "Follow me." They moved back through the tunnel. Fast now. The armored figure met them halfway. It had been injured, a mark on its side. Metal torn. It said the child was safe. But the attackers were many. Ray ran with them toward the bridge. They passed smoke, past sparks, past empty halls. Then they stopped. A strange sound filled the ship. Not weapons, not footsteps. A hum. Low, growing louder. Ray turned the corner. His eyes widened. At the main bay door stood a man. Human, dressed in a black coat, no helmet, no weapon. Just a smile. He said Ray's name. Ray stepped back. He had never seen him before. The man said he worked for Earth Command. Said the woman was dangerous. Said Ray was being used. Ray looked at her. She said nothing. The man offered safety, promised reward. Said all of this could end now. Ray had a choice. Trust a human with a smooth voice, or trust an alien who had saved his life. He looked at her eyes. She stepped forward, and Ray made his choice. Ray did not move. His hand was still in the air. Between the man and the woman, time felt frozen. The man in the black coat smiled again. Calm, confident. He said the wrong thing. He called her an object. Ray turned, his voice firm. He said she had a name. He said she saved him. The man blinked. His smile faded. A second later, the room exploded. Not fire, not light, but pressure. The wall behind the man shattered. A blast of heat roared through the bay. The armored figure had struck first. The woman moved next. She ran into the smoke like lightning, her hands raised, her skin glowing bright gold now. Not blue, not orange, but gold. Ray followed. The black coat was gone, pulled back by his own soldiers. Dozens of them poured into the ship, full armor, full weapons. Ray ducked behind a console. Shots flew past. The woman jumped over a crate. Her feet never touched the ground. Heat exploded from her body in waves. Enemy guns melted. The armored figure took down 3 at once. It moved like a machine. Silent, fast, precise. Ray looked around. No exit, no path back. This was the fight. He ran to the side door, threw open a hatch. A sharp blast hit his side. He fell. Then the woman was there, standing over him, shielding him with her body. Her glow flickered. She was getting weaker, but her eyes stayed locked forward. Ray stood up again. He dragged a broken power rod from the floor. He swung it toward the nearest enemy. Missed. Tried again. Hit. They pushed forward, room by room. Then they reached the chamber. The one with the child. The door was sealed, but the wall was cracking. A new group of soldiers stood around it. One of them placed a device on the door. A silent countdown began. Ray saw it. 12 seconds, he shouted to the woman. She ran. The enemy turned to shoot. Too late. She leapt into the air, spun, landed in the center of them. Sound like thunder shook the ship. Everything stopped. When the smoke cleared, she was on her knees. The soldiers were down, but so was the armored figure. Its chest had taken a blast. Sparks flew from inside. Ray crawled to it, pulled at the armor. It looked at him. Its voice quiet now. Protect the child. That was all it said. Then it stopped moving. Ray's hands shook. The woman stood, blood on her side. She looked at Ray. He asked if she could walk. She nodded. They opened the chamber. The pod was still safe. The child still asleep. Ray looked at her. He asked what the child meant. She said he was balance. Between two worlds. Ray understood. She could destroy. But the child could create. Suddenly, the lights turned red. The enemy ship was powering up again. A final attack. Ray looked around. No weapons left. No time. She placed the child in his arms. She walked to the command room. Ray shouted. Asked what she was doing. She looked back once. No words. Then she vanished behind the door. The ship shook again. Ray held the child close. The heat faded. Then something new happened. The stars outside the window moved. The ship jumped forward, not into space, into something else. And the woman was not with them anymore. The silence was heavy. No engines. No alarms. No sound. Ray opened his eyes. He was lying on the cold floor of the ship. The child was in his arms, still asleep. Still glowing. The woman was gone. The last thing he remembered was light. Bright and endless. The ship had jumped, but not through space. Through something deeper. He stood up slowly. Looked out the window. Stars were everywhere. But they were different. Not his galaxy. Ray was lost. But he was not afraid. The child moved slightly. A warm light passed through Ray's chest. Not hot, gentle, calm. He checked the systems. Everything was quiet. No signal. No enemy, no way home. But there was something else, a message. Hidden deep in the ship's memory. Locked by her hand. He opened it. Her voice filled the room. If you hear this, I am gone. I gave my last energy to protect the child. To protect you. She explained the truth. The child was more than power. He was memory. He held knowledge from her people. From the stars, he would grow fast. And he would choose his own path. Ray listened in silence. At the end, her voice broke. She said thank you. For not leaving her. For seeing her as a person. Not a thing. Then the message ended. Ray sat down. He did not cry. But his hands would not stop shaking. The ship floated in a calm stretch of space. Nothing hunted them now. But there was no map, no signal, no plan, just stars. And one child. Ray moved to the command chair. The systems lit up for him. The child stood beside him, awake now. Looking at the stars, he pointed at one direction. Said one word. Home. Ray smiled, not sure where that was. But he believed the child. He set the course. The engines hummed softly. The ship turned. Far in the distance, a blue light appeared. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Ray looked once more at the empty co-pilot seat, then forward. He did not know if they were going to Earth or somewhere new, but he was not running anymore. He had made his final choice. He was going to protect the future, wherever it led.